So welcome to this first iteration of Citation Station webinar series. We're going to be talking about Zotero. Zotero, my name is Liz Boda, excuse me. I am the Instruction and Outreach Librarian, so I deal mainly with undergraduate instruction, but between the two of us, Emily Newberry, our Research and Scholarship Librarian, we've kind of divvied up the citation software that we, management software that we support in the library. So I handle most of the Zotero inquiries. Emily handles most of the EndNote inquiries. So that's the division here. But Zotero is basically, it's an open access resource. So it's free to use. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. Then we're going to go through some tutorials about actually using Zotero. So I won't cover downloading it because I have to download it and install it on my computer prior to this, but it's really easy to do so. But we'll talk about how to navigate the software, how to add citations, create collections, create groups and bibliographies. And then also I will demonstrate the browser extension with Zotero in a couple of different ways, but most importantly, with its integration into Google Docs. And this is not just for Google Docs, it is also for other web-based software as well. So I mentioned that Zotero is open source, meaning that it is not tied to any company. So like EndNote, for example, is a Clarivate product. Mendeley is coming from another one of the other big academic publishers. Zotero is completely free. So if you think about like the internet browsers, for example, it's kind of like the Firefox. Like it's its own company. It's not beholden to any other kind of publishing system. There's also a huge developer network behind it that helps with answering and troubleshooting. There's a lot of additional APIs and software and like plugins that go with it that have been developed by the community around Zotero. It allows for pretty easy access to collect, organize, and format research citations into numerous styles. Last time I checked, it was over 10,000 different styles of citation that you could use in Zotero. It allows collaboration through its program of group libraries so that if you do want to connect with others, you can. And then there is a browser extension called the Zotero Connector that will help you both capture citations while you are researching. And it also will kind of add as a plugin to cloud-based word processors like Google Docs or Microsoft 360 so that you can basically include citations as you write them. And if anything needs to be updated with the bibliography, it will kind of do that automatically, which is really nice, especially if you need to switch between citation styles at any point. So let's switch over here to actually how to get into Zotero. So on the, actually, one second. On the library's website, pardon me, you can get to Zotero pretty easily. Under research help, we have a guide called Citation Tools. And then we do have a link directly to Zotero on the front page here. But if you look at the tab called Zotero, it has, again, that link out to it, but also information about the quick start guide. I found some really good tutorials just already created on YouTube. So we've got some connections out to those as well. And really Zotero kind of relies on the community to create a lot of the tutorials that they're using. So what Zotero looks like on its download here. And there's kind of three different, basically there's three different ways to access Zotero. You have your web library, you have the full downloaded desktop program, which is what is being shown here in a Mac format, but it is available for PCs as well. And then there's also the browser integration Zotero Connect. So to download all of those, you just go, or to download both the desktop version as well as the install the connector, it's here. This will work for both Firefox and Chrome, but it will also get a plugin for Chrome or for Edge and Safari as well. Okay. In order to, even before you download anything though, you're going to need to log in as well, or either register for a free account. So I've already logged in here, or I will be logging in. I just had to reset my password here a little bit. Okay. Okay. So this is the web library. It actually looks really similar to the desktop download, but you need the desktop download in order to make the connector work completely correctly with Google Docs. So you kind of have to have all three available. But once you're in the web library or the desktop version, it starts with just all of your citations in your entire library listed in one huge list, right? So off the bat, one of the things that you're probably going to want to do is actually to create some of these groups or collections, I should say. So if you click on the little plus here, you can add a collection. So for example, if I want to say create a collection for a Zotero demo, and then I can do a couple of things. So if I already have options, if I already have citations moved into that I want to move into this collection, I can select those and add to a collection like so, and then it adds that in there. Okay, so or you can actually import things directly into this as well. So those are your kind of libraries, and you can even create sub-libraries within or sub-collections within these libraries as well. You can also have these things called group libraries, and these are libraries that you are going to be sharing with additional people. And you can, again, these work really similarly to just your private library up here. You can add collections and add additional things in here. Let me show you what, so this is the web library version, but the actual desktop looks really similar to, let me pull this up here. So it's basically the same format. So going in between the web library and the desktop version is fairly seamless. It's just opening two different options here, but you'll notice that it's already since my desktop version is already open, it has already created that Zotero demo for me. I've already moved a citation in here. Once I'm on, all right, so once you're in here, you can see the full list of your sources. If you select a source, it automatically opens up this pane on the right side of your screen. This is where you're actually going to be able and edit the source. If something was added in incorrectly, or you needed to add any additional things like language or like an abstract, if you wanted to put an abstract in here, you could do so. You also have a notes field. So if there are notes that you want to put onto this or put onto this citation, you can do that as well. There are tags that you can use, and I'll go into those a little bit more in detail, but this is really useful for kind of organizing your project into different sections. So you only have one library for an entire project, but if you say, I'm using these citations as in my method section, and these citations are coming in my literature review, that could be really useful. And then you can also kind of relate some sources in that related one as well. But going back to my library, you'll see that I do have some tags already denoted down here, and these are from one of my plagiarism workshops when I actually do include a lot of those I have different parts that I needed to cite. The toolbar up at the top, or the menu bar up at the top, doesn't actually have a whole lot to do. It kind of changes within the desktop version, but down below, this is where you're going to, add a new collection. You can add a new group directly from this site, so these two over here are going to be kind of covering this pane. Once you get into the center pane, this is where you can add a new item, and it gives a couple of different ones right off the bat. So book section, conference paper, presentation, really common things that you might actually be using. Article should come up here too. It kind of reorders them based on what you've been adding more recently. So I've been adding a lot of books and conference papers recently, not so many articles. You can also add by a identifier. So an ISBN, a DOI, a PubMed ID, all sorts of these things, which are really nice to do and easy to do. And then you can also add attachments or link URLs to these as well. It does affect, or these links do affect the amount of storage that you have, but you can always add storage for a fairly reasonable amount. I think it's to move up from your free storage, which is about, I think, 300, 600 megabytes of storage. If you go up to 2 gigs of storage for an entire year, that's only $10. So it's really reasonable to add some storage onto your title here. Okay. So for example, let's look at actually getting items into Zotero. So I'm going to pull up a search that I did. Hold on a second. Let's see, where am I? So I've got a lot of options open here. Here we go. Okay. So say, for example, I am in a database from the library, and there's, again, a few different ways that you can get this information in. I could manually copy and paste all of this information into Zotero. So for example, if I want to start with the title and then bring up Zotero, I can manually say that I would like to add in a journal article. And what that will do is it will open up a tab here, or the right side pane, and I can start pasting in information. So first name, last name, all of this stuff. But this is really time consuming and not really effective, right? You might miss some things that you need to add in. You might also miss, information that, or maybe it doesn't come over quite correctly in the right place. Now, this could happen either way, but where to go? There's publication, sorry. All right. So you can continue to add all of this in, but there are easier ways to do that. So one way is, because I have the Zotero connection already installed on my browser, I can go up and can click on it and add it to this option, say, okay, and then it will ask where I want it to go. So I could put it into my library overall. I could also choose a different option, including that Zotero demo folder, and hit done. And what that's done is, if I go into Zotero demo, here's that relationship between article. Everything that I wanted came over here pretty much directly, including a link resolver back out to find the full text of this article. Okay. Now, if I wanted to have multiple articles come through and put those in, I can actually, let me move into PubMed here. Do a search. We'll just pick on anxiety for right now. And if I wanted to add in a few different options, I can go in and send to a citation manager, and most databases will have this option. And it's going to create a file for me. In PubMed, it's coming in as an NCB file most of the time, but in other folders, it might actually come in as a, pull this up here, just so you can kind of see. Ooh, pardon me. It's coming in as this PubMed set here into my downloads folder. Other times it might be a .ris file, but all I need to do in order to get this file into my Zotero option here, come back into Zotero, and then you can add in from, hold on a second. Where'd it go? So I just did this earlier. Oh, sorry. You go to File and then Import from it's file import option. And so that brings up a file that is from BibTeX, RES, Zotero, RDF. This is also where you're going to get the PubMed ID. Hit next. And it's going to open up your folder, typically your downloads. Open this in, and it's going to copy files. You can either choose to have it put files into your Zotero storage folder or just link out, which won't affect the amount of storage that you have. And you can also select either place imported collections into a new collection, or they'll just kind of land in your library here. Now, since they landed in this library, you're not entirely sure where they are. Sometimes if you have it organized well, you can go into your unfiled items and pull in those things that you really want to put in there. So for example, these three are the ones that I'm going to want to put into a collection, including that Zotero demo. All right. So even if you lose something in your library, you're still able to see everything, and you can do searches and for things as well. Additionally, I mentioned that you can add in items from a PubMed ID or a DOI. So for example, if I came across, the history of anxiety from Hippocrates to DSM in another search, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, and I'm going to copy this PubMed ID, and again in Zotero, I can go in and add the item by identifier, paste that in, and then it comes in again. So now I have those two options there. So it's really simple, and between the two of them, there might be a little bit of a difference in how things are capitalized. So you might want to go in and double check how these things came in, if there is any capitalization or something that came in kind of at the wrong fields. Just like any other citation manager, there's some instances of issues. The other thing that you can do is, if you're not sure, like if you notice that you have multiple duplicates, you can actually hit duplicate items, and you'll see, oh, there's lots of these. And maybe you don't necessarily need all of them to come in here. So you could delete out the ones that you don't need, or again, merge these two items so that they're the same and kind of put together, so you don't have a lot of duplicates clogging up your library as well. And
let's kind of jump in real quick.
Yep.
Just one more thing to say about that. That's a really great feature for those of you who are interested in doing systematic reviews and who are going to be importing massive amounts of articles. That duplicates feature will be super, super useful. So definitely check that out if you're going to be doing massive amounts of citation tracking.
Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Okay. So again, lots of different ways to get information into Zotero, but what happens when you actually want to share this with a group? Okay. I'm going to log into my other Zotero account, which I actually have had since grad school, even though there's not a ton of things in it anymore. So I'm going to be able to share, and actually I have shared, in fact, two different collections. So this is my eSvobod Zotero option here in the web library, and you'll see that I do actually have this group library that exists in my other account here. So the way that you do this is, in your group libraries, you actually have to go into your online web experience here. Okay, so again, this is my liz.svoboda account, and I'm going to create a new group library so that I can actually share with you or change one of these basically into a group library. So if I go into groups, I can create a new group, and it's going to basically, this is a way that you can choose to like make it an open membership so you can see, so multiple people can see like the citations that you're collecting, and they can add to it. You can make it a public but closed membership so that they can only see the options in this group. So this might be good for sharing out things at a conference or just kind of collecting to kind of to show other people what you're doing. You can also choose a private membership. So this is one that if you're working on a particular project, this is the one that I would suggest, so that you just have people in your group who are able to add, edit, and change these citations, right? So not necessarily publicly available, it's just kind of within that working group. So, hold on. We're just gonna make Liz team 1. So apparently someone else had already chosen the Zotero demo as a fresh URL or as a unique URL. So we're just going to do that. And there we go. So we'll see that it's taking me to the group settings so that it's private. Anybody in this group can read it, anybody can edit, and anybody can edit the file. So you do have the ability to kind of lock this down a little bit more. So say you don't want your grad students or graduate student researchers, editing files or editing the library, or for some reason, you could lock it down to admins only. Or if you want it to be more open and collaborative, you're going to keep it as open as it is right now. When I want to add members to this, you're going to send more invitations, and I'm going to send it to my personal Gmail here. And what will come up is that I will get a invitation to see this. Hold on. Come on. In just a moment, and it'll basically ask me to accept the invitation here. All right, but going into this invitation, since this is in this browser, I'm logged in as ESFO2, I can go in and basically accept this, and I am going to join this group. And so once I'm in here, if I go into my groups, I now have access to this team. I can go into and refresh my library, and it will show up down here that I am in Liz's team 2 down here. And this is where I'm going to be able to go in and add in options. Like this DSM-5 article. So again, in between this Firefox and then into my options here. Let me refresh. It should come up down in my group libraries as well. And there it is. It's just the demo, or the desktop is taking a little bit of time to update, but it's here. Okay. And once I'm in here, again, the list.spoda option didn't do it, or didn't add this in, but I can go in as a member of this group and change anything, or, put in like a date that I access something in case I need that. And everything's there. Okay. All right. Now, say I am actually going to be using this and collaborating with a group on a Google Doc. And this is the one thing, again, I mentioned this earlier, I think before you're recording, that kind of sets Zotero apart from a lot of other citation managers, is that its browser extension, the Zotero Connector, actually allows for you to have an integration with Google Docs. It will also work with Microsoft Cloud products as well, mainly the word processor. It doesn't work with slides, as far as I can tell on either side, but it will work on the word processor version of this. So the Zotero options should be linked up here. You've got a couple of options, so you can add citations, you can add a full bibliography. You can also set your document preferences, which this is where you're going to set what style of citation that you're using. And you can even unlink your citation. So this happens kind of after, like once you want to like send it to your journal, you're going to want to unlink citations. But for right now, we're going to, in my lovely lorem ipsum option here, I'm going to go in and say I want to put a citation after this first paragraph. I can go up and add or edit citation. It's going to open up the full document, and what it does, unfortunately, oh darn it, come on. Sorry, move this little browser. There it goes. I have multiple monitors, and so it's putting things in some weird places. It's opening up this little box, which is where I'm going to start to add in either an author's name. It'll also pull up titles, so you can search by author, title, a journal article, a year, anything like that, and it will pull up citations that match this. So if I wanted to put in this one by Andrescu and Lee, all I need to do is click enter, and it automatically puts it there. Then it also allows me to put in multiple. So say down below a little bit down the way, I actually want to put in additional ones. There you go. So I already have one cited here. It's letting me know that. It also will allow me to add in additional ones. So I'm just gonna, even though these have absolutely nothing to do with each other, I'll put these two in together. Hit enter again, and it's going to add them down below. Now, say you want to actually put in a bibliography at the bottom down here. All you're going to need to do is go up to Zotero, hit add edit bibliography, and it puts it there. So I've got all three of those citations in APA format. And if I needed to change this for whatever reason from APA to another citation style, this connector automatically will do that. This is, again, something that EndNote's Write and Cite does, but only if you have it involved in Microsoft Word. This is the really big deal up here. So if I go up to document preferences, right now it's going to say that I'm using APA 7th edition. If I wanted to change it to, say, a Chicago style, for example, that has a note system, or if I wanted to do MLA, for example, I can do that. There are also ways to manage your styles. So depending on, what journal you're putting things in, hold on a second. There are literally 10, I think last time I checked, it was about 10,000 different styles that Zotero was pulling in. Come on, repository. Sorry, it keeps opening in my other monitor here. There we go. So you could do a style search and pull up, specific journal styles, all of this kind of stuff that's coming in. You could even limit by a particular option. So say psychology, since I was using APA, it's going to limit those styles to something that you might want to see. And you can add these into your Zotero option as well. But for right now, we're just going to leave it as it is. And then change from APA down to, actually, hold on a second, cancel. Click the wrong thing. Come on. Document preferences and change it to, we'll do Chicago note. Okay. And instead of the author date, I now have footnotes and endnotes that will, and it will, again, it will list them in use, or it should list them in use order, just like you would in or just like it's supposed to instead of alphabetical order, but apparently I put them in alphabetical order as I was pulling things in. So anyway, okay. So this is with the integration into with the Zotero connector. If you did want to just actually create a bibliography because you're adding it onto something like a PowerPoint or something else, you can actually create a bibliography from either the web version or your desktop version. You can get a bibliography from a collection, and this is what you might want to do. You can also do it from a tab display. So if I wanted to create a bibliography from this list of archaeology books I was pulling together, I'm just going to need to choose my citation style. It's either going to copy to the clipboard, save it as a rich text file. So I'm going to be able to actually go in and print this out. So we're going to save it as a rich, actually copy to clipboard here. And then I can paste it into a Word document or a PowerPoint or whatever else I'm going to be putting this into as well. Word doc. Paste. And it pulls it in with pretty good options here. All right. Questions, concerns about Zotero, anything that I've gone over? I know we had a couple people kind of come in the midst of that. But we are recording this session. So everything's going to be uploaded to YouTube next week, as well as having all of the help that we do on our website. I'm going to put that link into the chat again for those of you who might need it.
Let's I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So say, for example, when you use Google Doc to create it and then insert all the citations, and then somehow you download the local version, work on that, and then, with those, I suppose those citations will still be there, right? And would it disrupt the referencing? Like somehow, another maybe collaborator opening again in Google Doc? Because right now, like if I use cross-referencing in the local copy, then someone opening in a Google Doc, all the cross-referencing will be gone.
Yeah, you're going to want to stay in Google Doc in order to make sure that everything works well. You can unlink the citations, and that means that you are going to basically, it kind of removes the code behind the citations so that it won't affect anything in your Zotero library. But you would be able to edit them in the document itself. So this is something that I would do at the very end of the project. I wouldn't do it while you're working in Google Docs. I have not tried this with like taking so say, for example, if you want to work on a Google Doc offline, I have not tested whether or not the Zotero option works with that. My guess is that it would not work as well, just because, again, Zotero, you're using the browser connector, and that is going to be related to your online status.
Thank you. Another question is there an easy way to import all the references from another reference manager, or just from, if I use a very traditional way, I store all my files in a folder and there will be subfolders? Is there any way that I can easily import them without having to search for every, reference and then to add that to Zotero?
So I don't know about, I don't think I've ever done one that you're just like trying to add in PDFs or like other files directly. But if you do have something like EndNote, or you're trying to come over from another reference citation, if you go up to File and you import this, you can either choose an RIS or one of those kind of citation generated files that come from additional ones. And you can usually export from, say, EndNote or RefWorks or something, one of these files, and it would come in and you can import all of those into Zotero. This is how I got everything out of my EndNote actually and put it into Zotero, because I had been using EndNote online for a little bit and then switched over to Zotero a couple of years ago. So there is a way to do that. And if you are actually using Mendeley, there's a more direct route to do it. I have not tried the pulling information off of text file or a PDF file, but you can. What's nice is, I don't know, Charlotte, if you were here earlier, but if you have the DOI, the PubMed ID, the ArchiveX, all you need to do is copy those in copy those into these the add by ID. So this is a PubMed ID. And it pulls it in for you. So that's going to be a lot faster than doing a manual entry for every single one of your files. If you have the DOI, if you have that PubMed ID for those particular articles that you're wanting to add in, that is going to be a lot faster.
Thank you. And for the ISBN, does it matter which one, like 10 or 12? It can be any one of them, right?
Let's check. Why not? We got time. All right, I'm just going to pull a concise guide to microeconomics here. And let me see, where are there you go. My demo folder here so I don't mess up this other project. All right, so that's a 10. And it's not finding anything with the 10. Let's try the 13. And it worked with the 13. So again, I may not have copied the one that I'm using. Didn't really want to give me 10. It gave me something weird. Let me try another one. There it goes. This one looks like a better 10.
Yeah, better.
Here we go. There we go. It did pull it in. Okay, so either the 10 or the 13-digit ISBN will work as long as they're the correct ones and not Amazon giving me the wrong number. So again, there might be some issues. You're always going to want to check to make sure that the information that's coming in is correct. I will say that I've seen less issues with Zotero on like putting information in odd fields than I have with RefWorks specifically, even EndNote Online, which is the other one that I've used quite a bit. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of with Zotero is it sometimes doesn't really work well with capitalization on like titles and things, but that's across all citation managers. They don't always know what an acronym is or what a proper noun is or something like that. So that's something to watch for when you're creating those bibliographies. And then like once you unleak citation, that's where you would want to go in and double check those things. Or you can even, start editing this. So for example, with APA, the first letter of the subtitle needs to be capitalized. So just going in and making sure that edit is there automatically. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question, Liz?
Sure, Nathan.
Awesome. So just to make sure that I'm thinking about this right, then, because I'm just trying to wrap my head around the different ways that you can organize your library and files, which I think is awesome and brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But then so let's say we're doing so say Kathy, Charlotte, and I are doing a collaborative paper, then it would make sense to just store everything within the group library. Then, however, if I'm working on a paper myself that is, I'm doing a review of something,
Mm-hmm.
then I guess that's when it would be handy to just in my library have like a folder dedicated to that. Or if I was like, okay, so I want to separate all my articles that are related to like technology or cell phone use in Parkinson's versus like tablet use. And so then I might have like different folders based on like different sections that might come into play when I'm writing something. Is
Yeah.
that, am I thinking about that right? And
You are
how to use
thinking
that?
about that great, Nathan. So the My
Okay.
Library, that is your private space. No one can get in there except for you. The group libraries, those are the ones that you have actually chosen to share and collaborate with others. So for example, we'll just choose my avoiding plagiarism. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. So I could go in and create new sub collections. So for those of you who don't know, I run avoiding plagiarism in a couple different ways. One is like an hour long thing. And then I've also cut that presentation up into 4 separate parts, right? And then, so in order to do this, I could create a part 1, for example, if I wanted to put all of the part 1 citations in one specific area, I could do that. And it's still under that avoiding plagiarism option. The other thing, this is the first way I did it, is that I actually added tags to all of my different sources as they came in. So for example, as long as I'm in the tag pull this up so it's a little bit more obvious. The tag is a cloud kind of collection down here. So for example, all of these have a tag of AP part 1. They're all in here. And so if I wanted to do that, I could create a bibliography from all of these. I could also add them to that part 1 collection. So the way that you organize it, there's a lot of flexibility. So however it makes more sense to you as you're working through this is the best. I will say with the tags, there's a preferences that that you need to set for this, but basically the tags that come over when you're importing things. So for example, if I go into Zotero demo, you'll notice that I have a lot of tags that came over. All of these are from the keywords and subject terms that they were assigned in the databases. So in PubMed, in PsycInfo. So if you wanted these to come over clean, there's a preference that you can set for that. You can also go in and delete these tags too. So if there are things that are coming over that you don't necessarily want to see, you can delete out everything that you want to. So there's, again, a lot of different ways that you can organize Zotero. So it's a little bit more flexible than some of the other, than EndNote specifically, which is the other one that I've used a lot as with RefWorks. The tagging is really nice.
So it looks like subfolders or subcategories. I forget how Zotero says it, but you can do that under the group libraries also then?
Yes, you can. You see, I've got
Okay.
this one for when I was working with e-reserves. I've got ones for specific classes that were coming over. And then
Cool.
there's that full list that everything is in as well. But again, like things that are in this category don't necessarily have to be in that top level library, or they will be in that top level library, but they won't necessarily be in the folders underneath.
Okay, cool. Awesome. That helps a ton. Thanks, Liz.
Welcome. We only put this up for like a 45-minute session just because there's a lot to get through, but also a lot to show you. So if you want to make an appointment with me, please do. This is connected to my work calendar, so that you are so if anytime I'm free on this means that you can make an appointment with me either for a half hour or an hour long session. The Citation Tools guide on our website, if you anywhere on their website under research help, Citation Tools will bring you back to this top page. But then we do have an entire section on this guide that is dedicated to Zotero, including a fairly comprehensive beginner's guide that I found online prepping for this. I pulled together some Zotero tutorials as well. So if you wanted to that, but then Zotero actually has a community created search string basically of all different tutorials that they found, not only on YouTube, but other sites as well. So lots of different help options here for anybody who's looking for it, but I'm more than willing to sit down with you guys as a group or one-on-one individually to go over stuff.
So I'm sorry, I have another question for you, Liz, that I don't know if you can answer, but this is more just me thinking logistics.
Yep.
So, again, Charlotte, Kathy, and I were collaborating on a paper, and so we're doing it, at least for Zotero, then it sounds like doing it in Google is the easiest thing. I mean, I realize you can use it in Word online too, but and so, you know, we're wrapped up with the paper, we go to submit it,
Mhm.
then it would probably make sense to just leave a draft of it in Google, I forget what it's called now, whatever the writing document thing is in Google,
Yeah.
and just export that out as a Word document, submit it to whatever journal we are, and then of course reviewers are going to come back and say, hey, add all the citations for me, because, and then we can just go back to the original Google document and do everything there, and there shouldn't be any unlinking or any issues, right? Did that question make sense?
I think so. I don't what the only part that I'm kind of getting caught up on is why would they want you to have the
Because sometimes during review they'll suggest that you cite certain things.
Oh yeah, okay.
Those tend to be the papers the reviewers written.
Oh, that reviewer number 2.
Right.
Yeah, so that would make a lot of sense. Or even again, so because once you export this as or download it as a Word doc, those citation styles are not going to
They become unlinked.
They're going to become unlinked. Yeah. So any changes you make to it on the Microsoft Word on its own separate doc, they're not going to be reflected in the Google Doc. So having the Google Doc as kind of like your main changes place is going to be probably the best idea. Anything that you come back and like work separately, paste back into that Google Doc. And again, I like Google Doc because of like the version history and version control, especially for group projects. You can kind of revert back to earlier versions too. All of that functionality is still there. It's not going to be affected by the Zotero plugin.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, that was basically my question. I was just doing a sanity check to make sure that would be the most efficient way to handle that. But yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you for watching this recorded webinar. Find upcoming webinars to register for at libcal.umflint.edu.